You know, for how long I've been using Metabang Paint Pro, you think I would have long drawn myself with this app. Technically I did, which was for the profile picture of this YouTube channel, but I didn't actually draw my avatar, as in draw, myself in drawn form, kind of like how Egoraptor did for his sequel lettuce, or how my dude Proximander13 does for his channel overall. But yeah, I finally got around to doing that, and that being said, here to talk about my art inspirations, because clearly, people don't just pick up the pen and paper for nothing. I could honestly name a bunch, because I've been influenced by a lot in my life, but if I'm talking specifically three major things, it's most definitely gotta be these three specific things. Okay, so I'm about to tell another story, because this pertains to where I got started in my whole drawing thing. So I'd say ever since I was a kid, I was fascinated with the simple shit. In kindergarten, I was always hoping that they gave me the box that had the most crayons, because well I liked coloring shit. I had fucking bookshelves full of coloring books when I was a kid, and I used to, I don't know, for some reason I was just fascinated with coloring shit. It didn't make a lot of sense, but clearly it did make sense, because look what I'm doing now. But if I'm talking about the first instance where I really started getting into drawing stuff, well, back in the day, there was a show that came out in around 2003, if not on 2003. It was called My Life as a Teenage Robot, and hands down, without a doubt, this is my all-time favorite cartoon. And notice how I say cartoon, and I'll elaborate on that in a few moments. But this show's art style, for some reason, just kind of stuck to me. It's one of those shows where I could glance at a screenshot. The main character, XJ9, doesn't even have to be on the screen, and I'll see that show's art style and immediately know exactly what I'm watching. So to elaborate on this, one day at circa 2008, I was watching an episode of My Life as a Teenage Robot, and I was so inspired that day for whatever reason that I grabbed the notebook out of my room. Don't ask why I had notebooks. I did stupid shit in them. But yeah, I had a notebook in my room. I went in there and grabbed it, and as I was watching this show, I drew my first OC. And that'll be the day that defined my life forever, basically. I mean, it wasn't very good looking back. In fact, it was kind of fucking terrible. But it was the moment in time when I knew what I wanted to do. Interesting fact, before I move on, My Life as a Teenage Robot was very influential on my art style, and I'll tell you how. Originally in my thumbnail, I was going to take a cutout of XJ9 off the internet and just plaster it out on the thumbnail, because I had the cutout Ruby from Ruby Rose on there, and they had a cutout of the Yellow Submarine on there, but the XJ9 one was really low quality. I mean really low quality. So I decided, you know what, how about I draw it myself? And it basically looks exactly the same. The lines are a bit thicker, and it's not as perfect, because the effects of me drawing with a mouse, which a lot of people don't draw with a mouse, but I do. But with how good I drew that redemption of Jenny, it goes to show how influential that show's art style really was on my art style. And I think that's a pretty fucking big deal. But yeah, moving on, there was another craze that I had going on after My Life as a Teenage Robot, because that show long got canceled, unfortunately, but it was still an amazing show. I got into the Beatles, and the Beatles were they're still one of my all-time favorite bands, next to Foo Fighters. I love both Foo Fighters and the Beatles, fucking, too much to comprehend, to be honest. But my first step into that universe was this movie that my grandfather introduced me to. It was called The Beatles' Yellow Submarine. Honestly, it took me a long while to actually see this movie, because at the time that I was getting into it was in 2011, and the DVD was long out of print. So after, getting a copy on Amazon, you know, despite the Blu-ray coming out the following year, which I also grabbed, so I have the rare and the new one. I watched this movie far too many times to count, and what is this movie, might you add? It is an animated movie. Not even with the actual voices of the Beatles, but still, it was a fantastic animated movie, and it was trippy as balls. The art style was fucking psychedelic and weird and bizarre, but it was awesome. The animation wasn't your typical Disney bred shit, and it was just an epic movie. I was heavily influenced by this movie in the mid years of my art style. There are actually a few things that I still get off this movie. I used to draw hands without any lines, because throughout the movie they would do hand gestures, and instead of, you know, drawing like the lines for their fingers, it would pretty much just be one whole hand, unless, you know, they were pointing or something. But that's something that I'll do maybe at a long range shot. But I'll actually elaborate on what all my influences are basically formed combined at the end of this. But yeah, Yellow Submarine was a pretty big influence. It's not as evident in my art anymore, but it still shaped how I would draw later down the line. It's kind of hard to explain, to be honest. It just helped me draw a few things better, I guess. But this very next one is so goddamn important to me, because without a doubt it is. I said My Life as a Teenage Robot was my all-time favorite cartoon, but I'd say this show is my all-time favorite show, period. Like, above everything. And people are gonna laugh because some people would heavily disagree, but my all-time favorite show is RWBY, R-W-B-Y, in case you don't know how to you know, spell the shit. Some people don't even know how to pronounce it. Some people will say R-W-B-Y for some fucking reason, but this show I happened to discover out of fucking nowhere. I actually was really late to the RWBY fandom and whatnot. It was like 2015, if I remember, and my friend, who is of no relevance anymore, unfortunately, was posting pictures of it constantly, and I'm like, what the hell is this? Because like, I looked at it and I was like, this doesn't look like anything I've seen before. It doesn't even look like it's supposed to be like anime or anything, but she was telling me, oh, it's this show RWBY, you know, it's awesome, man, you should go watch it. And I was like, you know, I have nothing better to do. And it took the very first episode for me to fall absolutely in love with not only Ruby Rose, but the whole show in general. And it's this constant obsession in my life, and I swear I'm never going to live it down, because it's literally just going to be on my life forever. It is, without a doubt, the biggest influence in my art, you know, career, if you can even call it that. It's funny, because when RWBY came around, I was actually in some sort of period where I thought about giving up in art. It's funny. I know, that's really funny to think that I almost gave up on art. And this show kind of came around and influenced me so much that it revitalized my art, like my will to do art. No, fuck me. I'm sorry. My will to do art in general, and I'd say RWBY has influenced me in the form of character design. It's influenced me in how I draw my characters, and yeah, RWBY is just such a huge influence, and I can't put into words really how much it's influenced me. Honestly, one day you'll all see in my work how the show has influenced me. But to put all three together, I could probably pinpoint exactly what were my influences amongst these shows. So when it came to Teenage Robot, I think the way I structure most of my characters are very similar to XJ9's design. What I mean is XJ9's face had a very Japanese yet cartoony look to it. Like, for some reason, XJ9 stuck out from the rest of the characters in her particular show. The way I've literally the way I've always done the eyes on my characters have basically been influenced by that character's design. In time, I've come to actually change how the guys' eyes are done, because typically in anime and manga, guys have more simply done eyes, and females have, you know, the shiny eye syndrome going on. But yeah, as far as that goes, my female character designs typically have the XJ9 eye thing going on. I this is kind of weird to say because the movie in particular wasn't really expansive when it came to details, but I think Yellow Submarine helped me out with character detail because again, I can't really say how the show influenced me as far as character designs go, but detail, which is a character design thing, I just started fucking thinking about that. Yellow Submarine had a lot of weird details going on, like things you wouldn't really notice. And like, say John Lennon had his flower thing going on with his jacket, and Ringo had like all the striped lines in a particular way on his shirt. I think that's what formed my obsession with making sure I have details on characters, like small details that you wouldn't particularly notice. And when it comes to Ruby, I think that helped me out with my anatomy a little bit. But when it came to character design, for sure, it was definitely Ruby, because one thing I've noticed about that show is every character is designed in like a very like certain fashion. Like Ruby Rose has her hood, and then she has, you know, like the dress and the boots and the stockings, and, you know, I think that would be it, but then they added in like the belt with the bullets on it and like the other things, and she has the fucking pocket on the top of her dress, and then she even has like the little crosses on her her hood that like basically keep it into her dress. Then you have characters like, say, let me think here. You got Yang, how she... Honestly, I can't even begin to describe Yang, because Yang's got so much details on her outfit. It's unbelievable. Like the way they design the characters in that show is really cool, and they always... It seems like they think about every little detail when it comes to those characters. So I think that when it came to character design, after seeing that show, it was definitely that show that helped me, you know, improve on my characters' designs, like keep them from looking basic and looking more, you know, cool. It's like, you know, a character's design, you know, tells you how they are, and I basically made sure to readjust some of my characters after seeing that show. Like, for instance, June, I actually redesigned her when I when I drew her on Metabang, because she had a cool design before, but it wasn't really, you know, expansive. I feel like this outfit actually indicates her personality more, and it was more fashioned up, because it shows how expressive that character is, and, you know, that's important to show in a character design, you know, how, like, their character design expresses who they are as a person. But yeah, that being said, I'll end the video off with this. One of my favorite things regarding art is its ability to inspire. It's interesting that another source of material can inspire someone so much to make their own piece of art. And, you know, I gotta say that it's a passion of mine. I honestly don't think I'd want to do anything else in the world, of course, other than probably play video games, I suppose. But I basically have always had dreams to make comics and, you know, one day animations and all this stuff and what have you. And with all this inspiration around me that I just displayed, you know, I basically have been doing nothing but improving. And hey, you know, maybe one day I'll inspire somebody, considering how much work I've put into this stuff. It really is great, and this app, Metabang, has actually sort of changed... I guess you could say it changed my life. It's a weird way of putting it, considering I've only been using it since about September-ish. But yeah, this app sort of changed my life. And actually, if I'm being honest, it's probably because of my dude, Proximander13. I was literally watching his speed arts, and I was thinking, man, this app is pretty expansive. What software did you use? It's awesome. And, you know, he said Metabang Paint Pro, you should give it a shot. I tried it on the phones, and I was fucking terrible at it, but I went on the PC, and it felt right at home. I'm honestly surprised that I've been doing so well with it, considering, like I said, I've been using a mouse, but it's great, and I have no one else to thank for that other than Proximander13, and he's the homie. If you like, you know, cool shit and a pretty chill dude, then by all means check out my homie Proximander13. I know that was a really bad description, but you know, he's the homie. I ironically met him on YouTube. I haven't really met anyone on the internet in a long time, to be honest. Like, I used to make a lot of friends on the internet. It kind of slowed down a bit, but yeah. He's chill, and he's the reason why I know about this drawing app, and why pretty much my career in, you know, the art shits is going up, if you can call it that. But yeah, that was this video that I plan on doing for a minute. Hopefully you guys got some insight and felt, you know, inspired yourselves or something. Honestly, this is another one of those, I hope I didn't sound like I was rambling a lot during this video scenarios. But yeah, thanks for watching, and Genji87 is out.